Imagine pulling up to a completely ordinary suburban home. The host is wearing a plain polo shirt and glasses, and in the backyard, a guy is eating a hot dog out of a cheap plastic cooler. He looks totally average. But you'd never guess this guy is sitting on a secure, six-figure investment portfolio. He didn't win the lottery, he doesn't have a flashy tech job, and he didn't get lucky on a speculative meme coin. Reaching your first $10,000 feels like an incredible milestone. But then reality hits. Even if you have an absolutely spectacular year in the S&P 500, returning a solid 10%, your account only makes you $1,000. At $10,000, your money isn't pulling its own weight. Your personal savings rate is doing 100% of the heavy lifting. They get impatient, chase speculative penny stocks, or fall for high-yield traps just to feel some speed. But that impatience is a trap. Charlie Munger said it best decades ago, the first $100,000 is a bitch. Today, we're exposing exactly why your first $10,000 lies to you, and we're laying out the bulletproof velocity system it actually takes to build a secure six-figure foundation, the exact turning point where your money finally starts doing the hard work for you. Let's look at the cold, hard numbers. Why is $10,000 a trap, and what does it actually take to reach $100,000? If you have $10,000 invested and you literally never contribute another dollar, expecting the market to do the work, how long will it take to hit $100,000? Assuming a highly respectable 10% average annual return, which is the S&P 500's historical nominal average since 1957, it will take you over 23 years. 23 years of waiting, just to turn $10,000 into $100,000. That is the trap of low-balance investing. You cannot rely on compound interest to build your foundation because your starting snowball is too small. But watch what happens when you introduce the real engine of velocity, your contribution rate. If you invest $10,000 today and commit to saving $500 a month, which is roughly $6,000 a year, right around the current Roth IRA contribution limit, you slash the 23-year timeline down to just over 8 years. If you can bump those contributions to $1,000 a month, you cross the $100,000 finish line in just over 5 years. And if you go full throttle, saving $1,500 a month, a target that is highly achievable for dual-income households or high earners living beneath their means, you hit $100,000 in less than 4 years. The math doesn't lie. At this stage of the wealth-building journey, your savings rate is 90% of the equation. Market performance is just the icing on the cake. The velocity of your journey is entirely determined by how much raw fuel you can pour into the engine. So why is $100,000 the magic turning point? It isn't motivational fluff. It is pure, compounding mechanics. At a balance of $10,000, a spectacular 10% return is $1,000. That's a nice weekend trip, but it doesn't change your life. Your manual savings are doing all the grinding. But once you cross that six-figure threshold, a massive psychological and mathematical shift occurs. A 10% year on $100,000 is $10,000. For a huge portion of Americans, earning $10,000 in passive market returns is more than they can realistically save in an entire 12 months of grinding overtime at work. That is the exact moment your money starts pulling its own weight. It's like hiring a full-time, invisible assistant whose only job is to go out and make more money for you. Once you hit $100,000, the sprint to $1 million becomes a completely different game. If you have $100,000 invested and never contribute another penny, it will compound into $1 million in about 24 years. If you contribute just $500 a month, you hit $1 million in 18 years. Bump it to $1,500 a month, and you're crossing the finish line in about 13 years. And if you go full throttle at $3,000 a month, you can hit $1 million in just over 9 years. But you can never play that game until you escape the $10,000 trap. To get there, you have to stop gambling and start building a systematic architecture. The reason this system works so powerfully in the US specifically is that we have access to a tax-advantaged account system that lets us shield enormous chunks of growth from the IRS. Most countries don't have anything close to this, and most Americans waste it. To build your first $100,000 safely and rapidly, there is a strict tax efficiency hierarchy you should follow. First, capture every single dollar of your employer's 401k match. This is an instant 50 to 100% return on your money. There is literally no investment on earth that beats a guaranteed employer match, yet millions of workers leave thousands of dollars of free money on the table every year. Second, if you have a high-deductible health plan, max out your health savings account, or HSA. The HSA is the single most tax-advantaged account in the entire U.S. tax code. It is triple tax-free, your contributions are tax-deductible going in, the money grows tax-free, and it is completely tax-free when withdrawn for medical expenses. Even better, after age 65, it functions exactly like a traditional IRA for any other expense. Third, max out your Roth IRA. In 2026, the contribution limit is $7,000 or $8,000 if you're 50 or older. A Roth IRA gives you the gift of tax-free growth forever. Because you pay taxes on the money going in, every single dollar of compounding growth is yours to keep, entirely tax-free, when you retire. Fourth, go back and max out the rest of your 401k up to the elective deferral limit, which sits at $23,500 in 2026, or $31,000 if you qualify for the age 50 catch-up. Only after these buckets are full should you move your money into a regular taxable brokerage account. Even there, the tax system smiles on patient investors, offering preferential long-term capital gains and qualified dividend tax rates of 0, 15, or 20% depending on why. Now let's talk about the actual vehicles you put inside these accounts. This is where most early investors get themselves into serious trouble. Because the progress at $10,000 feels so slow, people look for shortcuts. They buy into hype, chase volatile penny stocks, or follow advice from a relative at Thanksgiving boasting about the next 10 times meme stock. That is not investing. That is gambling with extra steps. The S&P 500 has historically returned roughly 10% annually, but only if you actually own the index. Picking individual stocks and hoping to consistently beat the market is a game that even most Wall Street professionals lose over the long term. At this stage, boring is beautiful. Your core portfolio should be anchored in low-cost, broad-market index funds. A total stock market fund like VTI, or an S&P 500 fund like VO or IVV, should do the heavy lifting for you. If you want a little international exposure, you can add a fund like VXUS. If you want a dividend tilt to build a passive income stream, you can look at funds like SCHD or VYM. If you want to lean heavier into growth and the massive tech giants like Apple, Microsoft, and Nvidia that have driven so much of the market's returns over the last decade, you can allocate a portion to a NASDAQ 100 fund like QQQ. Buying individual blue-chip stocks like Apple, Microsoft, Johnson & Johnson, Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, or JP Morgan Chase can be fine, but remember, every single individual stock you add to your portfolio is a bet that you can outsmart the collective wisdom of the market. Most of us can't. Stay far away from speculative plays. Once you have your accounts and your funds, you need to apply the optimization layer that separates people who actually hit six figures from the people who just talk about it. First, understand the difference between asset allocation and asset location. Allocation is what you own, location is where you own it. Because the IRS treats every account differently, you want to put your highest tax burden assets like bonds, REITs, and high dividend funds inside your tax-advantaged accounts like your 401k or traditional IRA so that their regular payouts aren't taxed annually. Meanwhile, you want your most tax-efficient assets like broad index funds that generate mostly long-term capital gains inside your taxable brokerage account, where you control exactly when and how you pay tax. Second, remove your own emotions from the equation. Set up dollar-cost averaging and automate your investing. Establish automatic transfers from your paycheck directly into your investment accounts the day you get paid. Set up automatic dividend reinvestment so that every penny your portfolio generates is immediately put back to work buying more shares. Finally, build emotional resilience. Real life doesn't hand you a clean, smooth 10% return every single year. The market doesn't work in a straight line. It hands you a minus 22% return in 2022, a plus 26% in 2023, a plus 25% in 2024, and somewhere in there, a flat, boring year that makes you question why you're doing this at all. Compounding hates volatility on the way up, and a brutal bear market early in your journey can make the math look ugly. But if you keep automating your contributions, a market dip is actually a gift. It allows you to buy more shares of great American companies at a discount. Ultimately, the goal of hitting $100,000 isn't to show off a number. In today's economy, $1 million isn't even private jet money. According to the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances, the median net worth for U.S. households in their 50s is around $250,000 to $300,000. A millionaire household is in the top tier, but it's not yacht money. $1 million simply throws off about $40,000 a year under the classic 4% withdrawal rule. That's about $3,300 a month before taxes. That isn't lifestyle of the rich and famous money. That is, I don't have to set an alarm anymore money. It's sleep at night money. The real currency of wealth isn't luxury items, it's options. It's the freedom to walk away from a toxic job, the ability to spend time with your family, and the peace of mind that comes from knowing you are secure. But you cannot buy those options until you build the foundation. Stop letting the slow start at $10,000 tempt you into taking foolish shortcuts. Automate your savings, build your tax-advantaged system, trust the index funds, and let the real velocity of consistent contributions carry you to your first $100,000. Once you cross that hill, the mathematics of compound interest will take over and do the heavy lifting for you. If this video helped you understand the mechanics of wealth building, do me a favor and smash that like button. If you're not subscribed yet, now is the perfect time. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and we'll see you in the next video.